Hey guys, we're in the home stretch. How you guys feeling? Good? I'm excited for this session. These guys I've been talking to for a few years now, but I've never had all of you on the same panel, so this is really exciting. I'm excited to talk about the world of connectivity software, smart kitchen operating systems, however we want to call it, this software that helps us basically build around and connect and make experiences in the kitchen around food and digitize it. And so before we get into the conversation, I want each of you to maybe do a quick introduction, just kind of 30 seconds to a minute, who you are and a little bit about your company. Kevin, you want to start?
Absolutely. So Kevin Brown, CEO and co-founder of Innit. So we launched actually at the first SKS, and it's been great to be in the family here. So we've been building out our company. We've launched in the U.S. We've now launched in 7 markets in Europe, providing a platform that covers the entire plan, shop, prepare, and cook journey, and going deep in personalized nutrition, in modular meals, and in cooking technologies. So we're working with a number of the folks in the room. Great to see everyone, and I look forward to the discussion.
Ben?
Yeah, lovely to see a lot of familiar faces in the audience here, and to be up here with so many people I know so well now from the industry as well. So we're Drop, the Kitchen OS company, focused on empowering and inspiring people to make food more. Because we think about sort of the product experience that we're delivering, we really think about that core piece and just sort of how can we ensure people cook food more often. We can go into a bit more details on that in the next little while, but I suppose what we focus on is, I suppose, we'd see the Domino's of the world, the frozen pizzas, the Uber Eats as our enemy. That we need to make sure that, when you're coming home and you're thinking, are you going to go down and choose one of those routes, that we deliver the software experience that makes it as easy as possible to make that decision to cook tonight.
My name is Jeff. Hey, my name is Jeff. This is my 3rd year here. Actually, our company is called Chefling, and we're a 3-year-old company. So maybe the youngest one among the 4. We help people do home inventory management, and on top of that, we recommend recipes based on your home inventory. And on top of the recipes, we connect that to smart appliances. And also we help people do groceries, shoppings, and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much of what we do.
Kevin?
Hey guys, my name is Kevin, second Kevin here, CEO, founder of SideChef. We have an all-in-one home cooking platform. I think our vision really is to have one place that people can go to be able to address all their home cooking needs. I think right now it's very difficult cooking at home. You have to go to so many different places, so many different sites to be able to create one place to be able to offer all of that to be able to happen.
Great. You guys, if you had a chance to listen in on the opening session, one of the things that we're honing in on as a group was just this disconnectedness of the ecosystem. Certainly, it's gotten better over the past couple of years, but to getting everyone to start to work together. But the kind of the breakdowns and kind of broken experiences oftentimes that a consumer will have, who's the recipient of the experience, because one company's not talking to the other and this isn't working, or there's a siloed kind of appliance play. I feel like you guys are probably do work in the hardest, and you live and breathe that in the trenches every day trying to solve for that problem. So, Kevin, you launched at SKS in 2015, and talk a little bit about maybe how far have we gone in terms of breaking down those silos, and have we made much progress? Because it still feels like, for at least a lot of consumers, they're not getting the truly fully connected kitchen experience.
We've been working the last 5 years on trying to knit that entire thing together, and it's a heavy lift because there's a lot of different companies that are moving in different speeds, sometimes not that fast. And but now there's a lot of motivation in the market. You look at some of the announcements from our neighbor in the Northwest here. You look at a lot of the trends. People are realizing they need to start to interconnect into an ecosystem, and so that's where we've been working to try to pull all of the pieces. Now, the piece that's been missing from a lot of the smart kitchen is the food. So there's a lot of gadgets, there's a lot of technology, but what about the food? And how do you bring that digital experience of the food and lead people through that whole journey and connect it to the kitchen? So having a thread through that, if you had a GPS system and you had to open up multiple different ones to get to a location, it wouldn't be that useful. You want to go from A to B, and you want it to be consistent and seamless and so forth. So that's really part of the task. And even, for example, the appliance companies are realizing that they have to think about that whole meal journey. What's for dinner? What's the right food for me? How do I fit my keto diet? How do I prepare it? So all of those steps tying into e-commerce, all of those are now becoming part of the discussion.
And I know that a couple of you guys have announced recently partnerships with food. I think that there's a motivation in my mind for food guys wanting to get on board. I mean, I think I remember you, Kevin, talking years ago about having optimizing the cook for the specific appliance, and that made sense to me. I think, Kevin, you just announced and talked about you have a partnership with Bacardi. So talk a little bit about like the CPG companies coming in and why they want to connect with you guys who are making these platforms.
Totally, yeah. So we announced with Bacardi yesterday that we will be doing a bunch of drink recipes for anybody who likes, doing mixology, making some drinks at home, which is also becoming a trend. Right now, we are getting multiple millions of people, cooking with this on a very regular basis on our platform. And this is where I'm starting to see that I think a lot of these brands want to get involved and get in front of those eyeballs. And this is why they're producing a bunch of recipes or drink experiences with us, because they want to get in front of those guys on all the different platforms that we have. I mean, I think we've done a lot of the heavy lifting of building this infrastructure, connecting with all the different partners. But end of the day, it's going to come down to engagement. Eyeballs are people actually using that experience, and this is where we are encouraging our partners now to take advantage, especially these brands, or they could be content creators, they could be brands. How do you take advantage of these eyeballs that now we're creating in this usage, right? Take advantage of it, jump on, and be able to actually see it in working, get data back from it. I think that's also really important. That helps everybody improve their products and experiences.
That data, sorry, Ben, real quickly, that data point you just made, I don't know who saw the DrinkWorks conversation yesterday. The most fascinating to me part of that was just seeing all the rich data that they were getting around usage and allowing them to go back to Keurig and build a new product line of cocktails. So, but not everyone can build a connected cocktail appliance like DrinkWorks is. So, Ben, I think you've been talking to food companies as well. Do you guys kind of help come in and where a CPG company doesn't necessarily have their own kind of cocktail making appliance in the kitchen, you guys can provide them with rich data? Is that part of the equation?
Well, I think just before I just jump into that, I think just to talk on to both of the Kevin's points, I think that there is sometimes the problem where I think a lot of the people in the room, a lot of the people in the building are sort of waiting for a time where you have the full all singing, all dancing kitchen, where you have to wait for all of the plugs to all of the appliances. And, to Kevin's point, like, we need to focus now on what's the consumer experience we can be delivering within the bounds of the connectivity, of the product opportunities that can be delivered right now, and making sure that we're focused on these pieces. And then from a data point of view, I think that's one of the most important things that needs to drive all of us. So we've got, I think, 85% of countertop appliances that are powered by Drop are paired to the cloud. We have 30% of our users who are cooking over 7 times a month through the app platform itself as well, and 60% of our users who are retained after 6 months, which is just unheard of in the app ecosystem, but in a connected ecosystem even more so, which we're sort of very proud of. But I think that's really what drives us. And just I'm a product designer and product developer by trade originally. So I think an anecdote that sort of drives us a lot that I just like to share with everyone, that is obviously very relevant for us in the space today, is what one of my old lecturers in product design used to tell me is, like, if you go out to market and you have to say, if you give yourself a brief of, I need to design a toaster. And I'm sure, a lot of people in the room have sort of had briefs like that themselves, but that starts to make you think about, okay, I need to build a toaster. How can I change the lever? How can I change these different pieces? You need to stay focused on the problem and within the realms of the opportunity that you have. So what the design lecturer told us at the time is, what you need to do is reframe the problem. So we need to caramelize the sugar in the slice of bread in the shortest time period possible, and then it just changes your mind shift and sort of completely sort of how you go about product development and product design and those pieces. And that's really what we're trying to do, from not thinking about the whole cooking journey and just doing each piece from a feature factory mentality, but actually thinking about how do we empower people to cook food more often, and then looking at each one of those opportunities to fix and change.
Jeff, When I started hearing about Chefling and early on, you guys seemed a very technically focused team. You've been you've had a strategic partner in BSH Appliances. I think they invested in you guys. I'd like to understand how and what you've learned around what maybe they've talked about, how they want you to design and kind of focus on. Because I'm wondering if they're also, because I heard Mario today on stage, who I think helped drive that partnership and that investment, talking about experiences as well. So what has been their focus, and what have they been trying to pull you to do? Because I think as a startup, a small founding startup like you guys were, you're very technically focused. Have they been trying to pull you towards that building experiences type of mentality?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I can speak out. Is that even we got invested by BSH, we're still a very, very standalone company. And I think we have this really good relationship with BSH that they respect our plan, that we run the company in terms of developing our own roadmap and everything. But at the same time, if there's anything that can be mutually beneficial for both of us, and sharing maybe some of these resources of technology or engineering, and then we might work on something together. So, well, I mean, BSH is one of these companies who realized how important this digital experience could be in the future, and they really believed in the potential of this and put money and actions into this. And in many aspects, we share the same vision where, we think inventory is going to be important, and the recipe matching using artificial intelligence is important, and this online grocery shopping is also important. So all of the things, I'm glad that we share the same vision. So that's how it works out.
I mean, I think in part, Mario's talked about I want to give Mario the word for dropping the first F-bomb on the stage, by the way, but it's a good morning wake up. But this idea of it's been a hard road for them to figure out how to move down towards building services, and this not always. There's been some bumps in the road. So I think they're starting to look towards people like you to help kind of enable those and kind of unlock those a little bit, because they realize they didn't always have that expertise inside.
Yeah, I think that's one of the expertise we have, that as a consumer-facing app company, we always start to think about features or any sort of design functionalities from the use case perspective. So for example, when people spend extra $100 to buy these Wi-Fi connected appliances, and there got to be a reason. And from our perspective, we think there's a lack of use case for that. And people just can't, take out of the phone and do the remote control. That's not going to be enough. We think the issue is from the smart content, which is, we don't have enough smart content to be compatible with these smart appliances. And we still position ourselves as a tech company. So we do not generate content on our side. So we work with individual bloggers and using some machine learning and algorithms to transform the potential, the traditional recipes into smart recipe, which is compatible with these appliances. So we think that can really be one of the breaking point where how you can convince the customers to buy smart appliances.
You mentioned smart content. Kevin Brown, I know that you've been working on projects around understanding with your acquisition of Shop. Yeah, I apologize. And you guys have really been going heavy into CBG and image recognition around what the products are, and then kind of feeding that into your system. So talk a little bit about maybe some of the features we're unlocking from a shopping experience and kind of plugging the grocery store and bringing that information into the kitchen.
So the smartest content is what's relating to the food that you actually want to make for dinner tonight. So that's really where the connection has to happen. And so with ShopWell, we acquired them and grew that technology out. So we actually have 1 million UPC codes that we calculate scores daily, personalized for you. So if we get your diet, your allergies, your preferences, we can now help pick the right product. Now that's interesting if you scan it. Let's say you have a child that has an allergy or you're trying to follow a diet, but now we're going to be able to apply it automatically to everything in your basket. So think about all of the scanning of labels, with your eyes and trying to figure out what's in those products. So we know that in the future you want to automate that hard work so that it comes in to the platform and you can just get all of that stress out of the way, all of the friction, and just enjoy cooking. Back to the kind of the shared mission here. So one of the places that we started to activate that is with Google Lens. So we just launched actually with Mars the first lensable product. So Google Lens is essentially visual search. So we started with text search, then voice search, and now visual search. So when you walk into a store, when you're in your pantry, the easiest thing to do is just to be able to look at something with your phone and have it come alive with the recipes you can make, with the nutrition information, with the ideas and inspiration, and ultimately with the right program to cook it in your beautiful new connected appliance. So all of that is going to get a lot easier. And so for us, that's why we're reaching up into the food world, working with the retailers and CPGs, because if you can digitize the food at that level and bring it all the way home, now you can start to have a real, sort of ease of use that's repeatable and that you replenish.
Yeah, that Google Lens integration is fascinating to me because I think you have pretty wide reach. They're in hundreds of millions of phones, and I think that's interesting.
Going to 3 billion.
Yeah, Google to me seems like a lot less aggressive partner than Amazon. The thing about Amazon, you said the partner in the Northwest. If you partner with them, you don't know if they're going to ultimately come out with the product. You are partnering with them, Kevin. So can you speak to that? Is that?
Yeah, I think the Amazon is a group that I guess I haven't really seen them speak as much, at this conference this time, but they are heavily involved in the kitchen, right? I think the Alexa has changed that altogether. I think really there are a lot of use cases and features out there, and we've been creating features along with all of you guys for many years. I think we're past the first few innings. I think that's one of the spoon writers wrote that as well too. Right now it comes to usage, it comes to engagement, right? So this is why we work with Amazon, but also with Bacardi, the recent announcement, because we frankly told Bacardi, hey, we can make you the search result for finding a margarita. Today, you go find a classic margarita on Alexa. You ask it directly, give me a recipe for a classic margarita. SideChef puts it right there. We put it in front of their 100 million devices out there. So this is kind of a major focus for us. We want to make sure that people are actually using this stuff because we're all working really hard to create lots of really cool stuff, right? But end of the day, if it's not being used, it doesn't mean anything, right? So this is where, we really want to now focus on how do we make sure your investment that you're putting in, you guys are getting those returns. How do we create the ecosystem around the business models, the BD world, right? I think we have actually already, this conference for all these years that we've done this, tons of innovation coming out of here. But I think we need to crack, that part. And I think that's, we're doing a lot of this with Amazon today. You can also, for that Bacardi, you can have that Patron added straight to cart from the Alexa itself. So while SideChef as an app has all these functionality as well, you can also do that directly through Amazon, through SideChef Smart Content, which ties in the content part. It's only possible because we have the content capabilities, and we also work with bloggers. We have some 16,000 recipes from 300 different partners around the world, trusting us, and we kind of, kick them back money as well, too, as they're helping people cook on these platforms in millions and millions of forms. So this is, I think, bringing all the partnerships together. We've been talking about that for years, too. I think, how do we make it so everybody is winning in that equation? That's what our focus is and what we're doing with our partners now.
I think ultimately it's about aggregating large communities of consumers that are going to use yours and then just pleasing them through making this stuff work. And you guys are kind of building that plumbing that ultimately kind of makes this work with a lot of kind of rich intelligence and rich data and rich media. So, Ben, I know that you partnered recently with Thermomix. And so I think part of the reason they wanted to work with you guys is you guys have been building that. And I know with the TM6 launch that they're ultimately trying to connect more with other appliances in the kitchen. So talk a little bit about that partnership and what you're building for them.
Yeah, I think it really comes back to the opportunities to deliver great value now within the smart kitchen, and I think we're incredibly proud to be working with Thermomix. They're, I think, the world leaders in guided cooking, with millions upon millions of users who are connecting on an annual basis, who are engaging with the product and adore that product as well, who have sort of proven the opportunities of what you can do through a great guided cooking experience. But obviously, less than 5% of kitchens are single brand. That's why we're all doing what we're doing, and sort of why there's this inevitability about a kitchen OS, a de facto platform to talk to all appliances in the kitchen. We're going to have 30 million appliances that are powered by Drop released into market over the next 3 years, where we're getting integrated right down into the firmware level. And now we have the opportunity to bridge that gap of that incredibly engaged community in and around the Thermomix to expand that guided step-by-step cooking across into ovens and the other appliances that make so much sense there. Now, what is it? I think 30 to 40% of all Thermomix recipes are, finished in an oven. So it makes perfect sense to expand that guided cooking experience beyond the single product. But I think the beauty of it is, when you talk about a Google Home or an Alexa Show, I think that contextually, the Thermomix screen is that screen that's sitting right in the middle of your kitchen, contextually right when you're cooking. That it's a screen that's always available there as well. So I think contextually it makes more sense than a Google show, and it's or an Amazon show. We believe in the kitchen when it comes to an interface for guided cooking. So with that as the heart of the kitchen, and then the Drop platform basically bringing connectivity across the full kitchen for those millions of users. It's a really exciting opportunity to be in that position, to be delivering real value in the connected kitchen space now.
I do want to go to the audience for questions. I know that you guys have some partners, and they may want to ask you some questions, or some people who just want to learn about it. But I've heard you mentioned screens. I know, Kevin, I watched your video that you showed of Aoife playing with LG with that nice kind of screen powered by SideChef. I know that you Kevin, have really you've done the work with Google around Google Smart Displays. So it does seem like that kitchen screen has become like a valuable piece of real estate, and you guys have really kind of centered a lot of your attention on that. So Kevin, can you talk a little bit about how maybe that changes moving to multimodal? We obviously know that 75 million voice assistants in the U.S., probably half of those in the kitchen, but bringing multimodal and video in kind of changes the game for you guys. How did that change your business in terms of what people were asking for you and what you're trying to build once you saw the large install base of these video-powered assistants?
So you look at how aggressive the push is to own the kitchen counter. It's going to be a huge opportunity for whoever's sitting on that counter, whether it's Amazon or Google. That's a very power position. If you don't win the kitchen, you can't win the home. And so that's a place where everyone aggregates. You got all these everyday use cases. So there's going to be a big push, and the aggressive pricing is out there. I mean, you can get a Home Hub now, street price $79. It's basically every kitchen is going to have multiple screens that can do something. So they're all pieces of glass. It could be your phone, could be your fridge, could be your smart display. But what you want to be able to do is have a seamless experience that when you're on the bus planning your meal, it's on your phone, and then you get home, and now you've got chicken on your hands, and you want to just have a voice activated capability. The big difference was voice alone was lame. It was really, really hard to get the value out of it, because who wants to hear 4 paragraphs of instructions recited back in Alexa's
Not good
voice?
for cooking, step-by-step in cooking.
Not at all.
Great for shopping lists.
Exactly, or set a timer or whatever. But for cooking, the video is worth 10,000 words, right? So when you see it and you see how it should look and what you're doing, it just makes it super seamless. So we've been waiting for that to show up. So when it showed up, we really went deep with them, and we were able to connect it to all of the appliances, to all of the workflows, to really make that a really seamless experience. And now we're starting to see that get pulled together. So instead of just buying an appliance, maybe you're going to buy a smart kitchen bundle that is going to really help you get more out of those appliances. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for that screen to be super helpful. And so we wanted to make sure that we could be there to really help people and give them more choices other than just their phone.
Kevin, I did again, that video you showed of Aoife with the big screen of LG. It looked like a great deployment in terms of, like we said, a trade show. Looked great on the show floor. Talk a little bit about that and maybe what LG was asking of you, and kind of like how you maybe move forward over the last 12 months in building that.
Yeah, I think the screens are going to be huge, and I think that is, what do we do with those screens next, right? We do have already the step-by-step cooking process, being able to connect. We think that the content on it is just absolutely king, in terms of what that is going to be. And how do we offer, the next generation, food, guidance, entertainment, all of it in these new screens in a very interactive way, almost in a game-like way. To be able to show. So with the LG implementation, and also Hire was another partner as well, but before that, of course, GE Kitchen Hub as well too, which is also out on market. Like, these are experiences where you can interact with these recipes, and we are going to also work on taking that farther with content partners. Like for SideChef, we probably produce 200 plus video recipes in-house every single month right now for different content partners that can then, be very interactive. We've seen that, we've done tests with these 300 different partners. What is really truly sticky? The truth is, for us, we've created lots of features as well, using the latest technology in the app to be able to engage with people. We have found that content engages people like crazy more than any of these particular features. And we work with the content creators to build new features that utilize their expertise. How do we get those leaders to be able to share what it's like cooking, those experiences, stories, tips, so forth, in a more interactive way? So you'll be seeing more of that on these screens, such as the LG ones, but also, again, with all the rest of our partners.
You talked about content partners. I know that you and Innit, and Ben, I don't know if you've done this, where you've found influencers, right? I think we could call Tower Florence an influencer. I know that you've kind of gone down the blogger route and found like people who have gathered communities of 15,000 up to 25,000 or whatever in terms of social follows. How central is that to gathering those users that we ultimately want? Do you need those people to come onto the platform, or can you just kind of go at it where you maybe help people who already have communities? I mean, because you guys, it seems like you're doing community building with influencers, or can you just like find people who have them to power that? Does it make sense?
Yeah, so one quick comment on this is that, there's definitely a draw to celebrity chefs, and, you've seen subscription things start to pop up. So I think you'll have content like that could be premium content, but it's pretty hard to charge for content. You can, but what we're seeing is that, we actually work with Tyler less to put his face on everything and more to really curate the whole modular meal system where we can swap in and customize and combine different things. And, he really helped us with the structure of it with his chef skills. So, he's super popular and he's awesome, and he helped us with that. But the reason that we worked together was to really go deep on the structure of the data and the structure of the meals and how do we do that. And what's next is, because we've now started to associate deep customized cooking programs to these. So, it's hard to charge for like recipes and remote control. Right, that's kind of hard to get a premium subscription. But now that we're going much deeper, and you can add celebrity content to that or other features to that, there's now an opportunity to turn this whole exercise from a cost center into a revenue center. So we've just launched our premium offering, and we have business arrangements with our appliance partners where if they originate a customer, we do a rev share. So think $5 a month times 10 years of owning an appliance. That's probably more money available in a contribution margin than you would make manufacturing and selling the appliance itself. So there's a big prize if we can start to engage and develop these sorts of software. So if you buy a bike, it's got the Peloton subscription. You buy a television, it's got Netflix. This is what's coming.
Premium's tough though. I feel like getting to people to subscribe is a challenge. I think, Ben, you're on Thermomix. I think Thermomix has done a good job with Cookie Dough. But they had, this is a 30, 40-year-old appliance that's been connected the last 5 years, been fairly successful. Do you think that this is a revenue path for you guys, what you're building, to get subscribers? Obviously you do, but I think it's going to be challenging.
So clearly, everything with the appliance world, happens gradually. Yeah. So the good news is that we have more and more people that are lining up to back it and to really take that to market and educate around it. So we've set ourselves up to really sort of help build this out for real and gone very deep on the technology. And so what you can do once you can control an appliance and have the easy button to automatically cook something, you can't do that if you don't adjust for the food and you don't adjust for the appliance. So you have to do something special to be able to do that. And you've seen sort of single appliances like June or whatever do a nice job of doing that for their appliance. It's a bigger task to now do that across whole product lines. But once you can get the easy button to people, that has value.
I do want to see if anyone in the audience has questions. Do we have any audience questions at all? Am I going to have to pick on someone? No? You guys are tired? Come on.
There's one thing I think just to the Kevin's points there again, just an area where I think we differ in strategies and sort of where we believe sort of long-term opportunities are, that we don't, when it comes to content development, I think there's I don't think any consumer is ultimately going to trust like any of us to develop the recipes that their whole family are going to cook year in, year out, from a retention and engagement point of view. That, you know, if Spotify were to start tomorrow and create, you know, the world's music that you are going to start listening to, you know, they're not going to get very far, because people don't like, you know, some people like classical music, some people like jazz, some people like punk. You know, there's no way to cover all of those pieces. So I think that's really where you're going to see some really exciting things coming from the Drop platform in the next little while, where it's really repositioning us as a Pinterest or a Spotify, and essentially like connecting the world's recipes and the world's content, and making that interactive with every single one of the appliances that are part of our platform. So I just thought it would be a nice opportunity to tease that a little bit here and share more in the not too distant future.
Jeff, you guys started, I remember early days when I first saw Chefling, I recall early pitch kind of value proposition was like a voice-centric app for recipes. I may have it wrong, not quite right, but you guys have kind of really expanded, I think, and you've always focused in on the AI component of it, at least in terms of your messaging. Can you talk a little about your evolution and kind of what that means in terms of what you offer from an AI perspective?
We actually took off from Alexa. When we, like 2.5 years ago, when we launched our initial app with this idea of inventory, recipe, shopping combined together, we didn't get a lot of attention until we launched our first Alexa skill. And if you think about Echo, probably one of the most important use cases in the kitchen. And people do all sorts of tasks, like adding things to shopping list and manage their inventory, like milk is running low, beer is running out, something like that. And it's somehow, or you can ask, what's for dinner? And instead of giving you like a random recipe online, it gives you the one that you can cook. These are all based on the same kind of backend system with our app. And we took off from there. Like, by the way, Alexa featured us, and then we got a lot of users. That's how we got initially started. But along the way, we started to realize that, you know, we agree that content is very important, and we are not a content company, so we have to work with these individual bloggers. And so we have built this infrastructure on how to structure different recipes and like parse out the ingredients, recognizing appliances, cooking instructions, so on and so forth. Now I think we have pretty much done with the infrastructure. And we actually recently launched a new feature, like we work with food bloggers, and currently a few. But what we can do is we can migrate their content from their own blog to Chefling platform, and users can follow them from Chefling, and they start to see this number of followers growing. And our goal is to, you know, drive more and more success stories for this early adopters of bloggers and help them really succeed in terms of becoming an influencer on this new platform. So that's like how we use part of the machine learning technologies to do this. And now, and since Kevin also talked about the premium subscription, I think that's going to be one of our potential revenue stream as well. That users have requested for certain features like adding their own content, adding their own recipes, or if they can download any recipes from the internet. So now this feature is also available in our app. And it's working so smoothly that you can search for a recipe in Chefling, but if you couldn't find anything you like, you can switch to internet, Google, and if you find something you like, you can just click one button and download to Chefling. And once it's downloaded to Chefling, it's machine readable, it's shoppable, and like you can control your appliance from there, you can buy groceries from there. So like all the things start to emerge together into one unique solution. I think that's where we stand out.
This idea of like people being able to bring their recipes and plug it in and then have it convert into something that's shoppable or step-by-step guided, that seems like that would be really appealing as a consumer value proposition to me. Like that just seems like I would want to do that. It sounds like you've been working on that. And in part becomes a conversation about being open versus closed, right? Like being able to take stuff that's on the web and adding more value to it. So, Ben, have you been working on that? So you kind of tease that you're kind of expand more into the content realm, working with kind of contributors. Are you kind of going down that path as well?
We are turning the world's recipes into data, and then basically have turned them all into our truly digital recipe format. And sitting on top of the magic then that you can apply on top of recipes the second you have them in a truly digital format is unbelievable. From like automatically making them compliant to different dietary restrictions, obviously scaling them, substitutions, all of these pieces, personalize them for your own appliances in these different places. So we've brought in world leaders in natural language processing, specialists in the food area, and all of these different pieces. So very excited to get these pieces out into the market in the next little while. But it's we've been watching our consumers cook on the drop scale since 2014. And no matter how many recipes you have on the platform, we've heard from them, delivering the exact recipes that they want. It's never enough. You could have, as Thermomix know, they have 50,000 recipes on the platform. It's never enough. That's when we realized fundamentally we needed to change our content strategy. And that's what we did. I've been investing in that area for over 18 months now.
I think Joe has
we have a question. All right. Hey, Joe, go ahead.
So if you're pulling stuff from bloggers and stuff from online, and it's unpoliced, unpaid, unprofessional content that you're now letting your users use and will affect your brand, how do you police that?
How do Pinterest police the quality of pins that are out there? I think that it's once you get to a position where there's, it's not... It comes down to, and I think again to talk to Thermomix, it's an unbelievably strong collaboration because they've done a great job of basically giving a seal of approval for every single recipe, and that so a consumer expects when they go to use a Thermomix that this recipe is going to work perfectly. So that is not a promise we are making to our end consumers. The promise Drop are making is we are delivering we are the place to cook. This is the easiest and best way to make the easiest decision to bring you through whatever recipe you want to make. If you want to make a terrible nacho cheese, that's cool. We can help you along the way. We can make that connected, and it's from some person who's made it in that you mightn't have ever met before. But if that person who's made that nacho cheese makes a terrible recipe, we don't want to keep them out of the connected experience. We don't want to make those. Some people love those recipes that So there's again right back to some people love punk rock, and some people love super spicy food, and some people love nacho cheese. So this is actually a really important point, and you're spot on there, Joe. So basically, we see the opportunity. This is where we can empower people with knowledge by having recipes in a truly digital recipe format and understanding all the underlying nutritional information. You set me up perfectly. Thank you. So that we can actually empower people with the knowledge of understanding, this nacho cheese is a shitty recipe. It is bad for me. We have the opportunity to now actually give people the guidance, empower them with the tools and the experience that, so this is what a balanced diet is. This is how easy it is actually to cook at home and get shopping. I think this is what the true opportunity of democratizing the recipes across the whole platform, making any recipe connected, but then empowering people with the right knowledge is sort of what is a responsibility that we now have as well. And it's all part of the user experience that we're delivering. And it comes back to the core heart of where I started is how do we empower people to make food more often? And if we're focused on that key goal, then nutrition is one of the key guiders in that. So we need to empower people with that knowledge.
I think one thing I want to add on top of that is if you make the platform as an influencer platform, and these people who ever generate content have their native incentive to generate some good content, so people can they get more followers. Or I think that if this entire culture or system is established well, and I think there's going to be a very good positive effect on making sure the content is self-managing at least.
Talk about how good the food could be. I'm not talking about making good food.
No, you are spot on. No, that's
more influence.
So there's different parts of the journey that people need help with, and that can be digitized. And I think there's a lot of good efforts to try to automate or to expose information to each of those. One of the ones that's really near and dear to our hearts is when you put that beautiful $30 piece of salmon in your oven, does it come out delicious, or do you murder it again? Right? So like at the very end of it, it's, you can do all sorts of prep, all sorts of flavor choices, all sorts of content, entertainment, all of that along the way, great. But when you put that piece of food and into your kitchen and you want it to come out, that's where that quality, I think, is super important. And so our belief is that you can't do that unless you go very deep on the science of cooking, on the science of food, on the data around it. So we have a full culinary lab and test across all the different appliance models and have algorithms to adapt. Every chicken is different and every oven is different. So every recipe in the world is wrong. So how do you adapt for that algorithmically? And we test. So the president of the French Culinary Academy is on our team. He stood in our kitchen in Silicon Valley and cooked 1,000 chickens. Every homeless shelter around us is eating Michelin-starred chicken. So like that's in the end, we think what it takes to make sure that even if whatever spice you decide to put it on tonight, when that comes out, if we can give people the confidence that they can come home on a Tuesday night, put salt and pepper, throw it in the oven, and have something great come out to serve to their children, that's, we think, that you can't fake that. So we think that's really important to go deep on, and that's one of the areas that I think is a collaboration with all of the folks here that are creating great cooking technologies.
I think in terms of strategy, this is actually one area that we're maybe a little bit different, because I actually still also value going super, super deep in terms of how do we get people to actually cook something very good. But if I were to compare all the problems that people have today, I don't think that's probably number one. I actually think the kitchen industry has done a great job building devices that help people really cook. I think, how do we make Smart Kitchen Summit mainstream? How do we get smart cooking mainstream? It all comes down to users really using this stuff. And this is where, it was very hard for me, to admit this as well. But like, hey, SideChef has a few million downloads, but that's not going to go change everything. And we are actually betting kind of that a lot of these bigger players coming in, which like these Googles and Amazons, like they're going to come in and really change up the space and potentially make it very mainstream, right? With 100 million plus devices already out there, that's a lot of users in every single household, as you mentioned, in the kitchens doing this, right? So I think this is where we want to actually focus top of the funnel further. Like we are doing absolutely things with our kitchen partners on making cooking better, easier, so forth. But I think the real traction, what needs to happen, all of us here together, how do we get more people onto the platform in general and using this? And this is where I see, as we're mentioning differentiators as well too, we're working natively with Amazon and Google, like meaning, again, you ask Amazon directly for a pizza recipe, it'll show SideChef recipes, and I believe in the smart recipe as well, being able to connect through all of the different pieces of providing data, of being able to get all your groceries. Today, you ask, again, Alexa for a pizza recipe, it'll show up SideChef recipes, you can add those to cart, have them sent to your door. Right, and this is touching 100 million plus devices that they have already announced in January. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 200 million by the end of the year. And they're really pushing on that. And this end of the day, like, we're going to have features, we're going to have, lots of cool things we build. If people don't use it, it doesn't really matter. I think it's going to be really important to look at how Amazon looks at those pieces, how Google looks at those pieces. We also work with them natively for connectivity, which I think is also another game changer too. Because as they have also announced their smart oven, right, we haven't talked about that, and their microwave, to be able to connect natively, directly with those hubs, they've made a footprint in the kitchen. So I think this is one of those, like, how are all the different groups and partners going to be able to, work with them or, compete with them in those areas?
Other questions? Go ahead.
I want to go back to Michael's question again. How do you guys envision all of your compatible devices working with each other? So the Thermomix working with the Philips air fryer, working with the Electrolux oven, that all of your platforms working together.
So I think it's a great question because, like we talked about, every kitchen has a mix of different brands of small and large appliances, and to put together a meal, who wants to open up 6 different apps? Each year on stage, we've talked about that's not the answer. So how do you start to aggregate that into a singular consumer experience that takes them through? So what that requires is you need to understand what the thing does. You need to understand how to really optimize and operate that device, whether it's a mixer or a cooker or an oven or a stovetop. Next, you need to be able to then orchestrate it because if you're going to be using multiple different appliances, what order should you use them in? We did a year-long consumer study. We found one of the top stressors for consumers was they would finish the salmon. It's getting cold on the counter. Now they're burning the beans. They forgot to make the sauce. And just pulling all of that complexity together every night, especially for a new meal that they haven't done before, is really stressful. And so they fail all the time with that. And that's where chefs really get good, is that orchestration and timing and so forth. So, if you want to orchestrate and make that all work together to get dinner ready, you're going to have to understand how each of them operates and then to be able to orchestrate them in the right order with the right help. So that's the depth that it's going to take, on the underside, the complexity, for it to be simple for the consumer.
I want to go back a little bit. I was thinking about Joe's question, and the way I think people find recipes oftentimes, like I oftentimes will search sous vide and I see Kenji's recipe comes up first. I was like, I love Kenji Lopez, all Series Eats. I'm going to use his. So it's tastemakers, right? It's influencers and tastemakers. We trusted brands, but as we move towards, and I don't want to break Joe's heart or anyone's heart, but as we move towards a more AI-centric algorithmic world where we build recipes from the ground up, we know what's in our fridge, and then it builds because it understands the flavor pairings in ways that maybe we don't, and it makes this great recipe. Are we going to move toward, maybe we don't ever get away from the influencer-centric brands that we know and love to kind of understand recipes, and are we going to move towards a more AI-centric world, Jeff, where like the recipes that we learn and want are going to be driven by technology? Will consumers ever buy into that?
So we do not generate content using machine learning like from ground up. What we do is we create tags for users, like what do they like, what's their favorite food, what type of food flavor, like what do they like, and then we also generate tags for recipes. So whenever people download a recipe to Chefling, or basically every recipe on Chefling platform has maybe 30, 40, some like even 50 different tags, and then we're trying to match the tags. So trying to get the right content to the right user, that's what we do. And I think people are going to appreciate more and more like that as the technology improves and it's getting more and more accurate. There got to be a threshold. Like nowadays, everyone talk about recommendation, but if it's not accurate or it's passing that threshold, people are not going to feel it. And I think there were like one session yesterday talking about when people are trying to make a decision on what to cook for dinner, they spend like average 30 minutes on negotiating what to cook. People genuinely appreciate fewer options than millions of options. So it's important that you provide them a few but very practical suggestions, and then they're gonna love to use that. And
the technology is getting better to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. We're running close. We have one question. We'll take your short question, and then we'll go to break. Go ahead.
Kitchen device manufacturers, oftentimes we have connected appliances, but we have portfolios of appliances. To make on top of it, we probably have, let's say, 30. Are we getting to a point where the new innovation, the new technology is actually just the connectivity piece? Because integrated into your platform, are you saying that part of one of these integrated open source content applications of sorts, it's just good in the toaster oven or in the countertop oven? Are we losing the ability to differentiate and innovate for kitchen appliance manufacturers?
So, this is a super important point because no model is going to work that doesn't help both sides, both parties, sort of differentiate and win. So our belief is that a lot of the future features and capabilities that will be important, will involve some software. But there's also a hardware and cooking technology and quality. It's both. It's a system. And so if someone's going to do it all in-house and build it themselves, they can do that. This is a way to tap into an ecosystem that's been built across many things and get features that would be very difficult to build yourself. But if we don't give you a way to differentiate, don't give you a way to feature it, then that's a lose. So what we've ended up doing, working with partners, is we've been able to heroize and to kind of lift up their features. Let's say you have a steam oven and no one knows how to use steam. Now we're going to steamify recipes. We're going to really find ways to get value out of that and differentiate that product based on its cooking technology that was developed. So I think this is a super important conversation. It's probably too detailed of a one to really explore fully here, but there's going to be many different ways at different layers of the stack to create differentiation and to tailor it to the specific needs of markets. And there's going to be new business models and revenue models to consider, things like upgradable features and other things that are going to change the way, in the next 5 or 10 years that you might choose to buy an appliance. So I think that's a good discussion to have. At the very least, we should have the discussion, and then everyone can figure out when's the right time to jump in.
Well, go ahead, John.
I can give you a very specific example of that. So, for example, we're working with our partner BSH, and BSH has some specialities when it comes to oven. They have some cooking programs on certain type of dishes. But we are extracting these instructions directly from the recipe, and it looks like every appliance is the same, but we can somehow integrate these suggestions of this special cooking program, which is only available in BSH product or any other partner's product, and we can integrate that seamlessly to the app as well, so that people can enjoy that, so that can differentiate different brands. And obviously there are different solutions.
I just want everyone, we're going to have 3:05. I want to cut it off just because I don't want to go too long, and people want their break. So I would encourage, you were saying it's probably too deep a conversation, but I actually think you guys could come up and ask these guys questions. So why don't you do that? But first give them a round of applause. Sorry, Ben, I didn't mean to cut you off.